Muting myself instead of unmuting myself. Good morning, everyone. This
Good
song doesn't
morning.
fit the occasion. I know, James, and that's because I was gonna do "This Is America" by Childish Gambino, and then I was like, I'm fucking lazy. I'm fucking lazy. We've got so much to talk about. Let's get these out of the way first. Punk. Not get these out of the way. That sounded like an asshat move. I apologize, Punk. Canada, here I come. Oh, Canada. You know what? I didn't believe in Canada until the election. Popped in to say hey before I head to the gym soon. Well, good morning, Punk. I hope you have an awesome time at the gym and comic book shop. There is going to be comic talk this week, probably Friday. If that's okay with Robert, that should be fun. Joseph, good
Good
morning.
morning.
Is it
How is
though?
everybody?
Is it? Is it
I'm
a good
sorry?
morning? Is it a good morning?
Yeah, it's mixed, but we talked about this numerous times over the years. She's not a good candidate, and the
No.
party isn't a good party.
I
They're
blame
not
the
good to
Dems.
people.
I honestly at this point I blame them. First off, you know what? I'm gonna pull this card. You guys can deal with it. You can never underestimate America's misogyny and racism. There, it's the only time I'm gonna pull it. Also, at the same time, I blame the Dems for having such a polarizing figure in Kamala. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate Kamala. I don't really have the issues that some other people have.
Of course not. You voted for her.
I did. I 100% did. But I think she was too centrist, and in order to battle somebody that is radical in their stances, you need somebody just as radical. And she was very, very middle America. Like, I think she would have won a lot of points supporting Gaza. I think there's a lot of things she could have changed that would have helped her campaign, but she was Mrs. Pantsuit, typical politician.
Well, that whole thing about moderate, that shot right past me because I've never seen her as a moderate. I've only ever seen her jock the Democrats in every little thing that they do, from praising Gavin Newsom, all here, Governor of California, by the way, for those who may not know, the guy that signs every bill to raise our taxes, and the party that keeps looking for excuses to raise our taxes. In fact, a few of those just passed today. I'm still looking at those ballot measures, but all I've ever seen for her is praise for the Democrat Party, no matter how many criminals are ruining the streets, which is about to change because the Democrat that was running the LA District Attorney's Office, as of today, he should be voted out. His opponent is winning by 63%.
Oh, wow.
That's considered overwhelming. In political
Yep.
terms, that's
Yep.
about overwhelming.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and here's also an interesting thing. He initially was Republican. He went independent, and now he won the vote. So that's going to be an interesting. We'll bring that up later, but go ahead and get to that.
Tony says America's about to be great again. Wait, so it wasn't like
There was
the last.
nothing ever fundamentally right. The worst thing about America is that our Constitution has never been fully enforced. And that's something I brought attention to. And I actually like to take I'd actually like to take the opportunity to bring that to your attention now, since I think everybody's in a learning state of mind now, seeing that Donald Trump is being reelected.
Trump is about to save us all. JD Vance 2028, the guy that okay, JD Vance is a fucking idiot. He wrote the foreword for Project 2025. If you want to go to Handmaid's Tale, you go for it, Tony. But the rest of the world isn't into that. Libtears will water the tree of liberty. You know what?
JD Vance
Fuck
looks
it,
like
Tony.
a cross. JD Vance looks like a
God
cross-dressing cat lady.
He does. He looks like your drunk wine aunt with a little bit of eyeliner. Like, Tony's gonna piss me out today. I'm not.
JD was that goth kid that never grew out of his what the nail polish.
Who openly admitted to lying about they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. This dude is the dumbest. This never Trumper that flipped because he's a fucking idiot is now this, sucking off his. I'm gonna be very careful with my words here. No, I'm not. I'm mad. No, nobody's gonna vote for this idiot.
No, I doubt a lot of people would vote for Vance if Vance was running.
No, for sure. And that's the issue we had with Kamala.
Like I said, she wasn't a popular candidate, and this party. Well, let me actually take a step back, because we talked about this a few months ago, and you asked me who I thought was going to win, and I didn't know, because Democrats were gaining districts, but gaining districts isn't the same as gaining support for president, and then you're seeing
Right.
that in your
Right.
face. So with that in mind, I truthfully didn't know. However, I could have told you, living in California, hearing the concerns people have,
Mhm.
Democrats on the street is almost non-existent. The voting base now, if you look at the amount of people registered to vote, I don't even think half of Californians are registered to vote. But even
That's wild. I'm very good about voting. Like, that's just my thing.
But even with those who are registered to vote, most of them are registered Democrat. But like I said, I don't even think it's half of the population. We have well over 40 million people here by now.
Holy shit. It's not Cope. Nobody voted for JD Vance. They voted for Trump. Stop it. Stop it with your daddy. Robert, thank you so much. I told you I can't. Oh, I'm sorry, Robert. You did mention that. It's my convention volunteer day. The biggest problem is all the name calling and demand canceling on both sides is okay. You know what? Robert's onto something here. Let me finish, and then I want to elaborate on this. Making things worse and worse, to the point where good points are ignored because the bad is all people assume about. And then we've got justice for Peanut the squirrel. Fuck yes. That was such a. They broke into this motherfucker's house and took his raccoon and his squirrel and put them down. Like, it was hard to watch. It was really hard to not tear up at this situation.
Wait, they euthanized the animals in the kitchen?
Yes! No, not in the kitchen. They took them back. But it was so hard to watch. The husband and wife.
We're taking this raccoon to the glue factory.
Oh my God, it was so sad. They had them for they had Peanut the squirrel for 7 years. 7 years. And they euthanized them.
Oh, he probably had a week left anyway, right? Squirrels don't live long.
I don't know, but it was horrible. It was horrible.
Well, on the subject of horrible, obviously you're overwhelmed.
Oh my God, on the subject of horrible, Tony shows up, right? Nobody is going to vote for this idiot. Dems in 2016, 2024, and soon to be 2028. I'm not a Dem, but nice try. Blame everyone except their own bad policies and poor management. No, I want to elaborate on what Robert has to say. You know what won this election?
Yeah, Democrats are so bad, there's no reason to vote for them. In fact, let me give you some insight. So remember, for those listening,
shut the fuck up, Joseph.
All right.
The culture war. Trump didn't run on policies besides deport the immigrants. Trump ran on culture war issues.
Can I talk?
Yeah, you can talk now. Go ahead.
Yes, he did run on culture war issue. He ran on propaganda. Now imagine how bad you have to be. People know it's propaganda and you still lost because they can't stand you. Because even if you have the truth on your side, nobody's going to listen to you because something else is wrong. Something else is so wrong with you.
Yep.
There is no reason to vote for it. Like I just mentioned, we had this problem in Southern California, in the Los Angeles County. I'm right next door. Most of the crime in Southern California is coming from the Los Angeles. It's always been. But the LA district attorneys never, in recent years, he wouldn't prosecute. He would never fully prosecute. He had a policy. He would not pursue anything greater than 15 years. He's also the dipshit trying to get the Menendez brothers free right now.
Wait,
it's not going to happen.
Against that?
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Okay.
Menendez brothers are absolute thugs. No, first off, because here you're watching too much of that documentary. But if you want to watch
documentary at all,
you're hearing too much gossip. Because what you should do is look to the people who. Let me see. I forget the man's name, but he was a friend of the brothers. Actually, I think he was their cousin. Anyway, somebody who alleged that the brothers were talking to him about abuse. Right. That was the statement that he gave to investigators. Then he took the stand, and he adamantly he adamantly stood by a lack of recall. He said, "I don't recall ever admitting to prosecutors any kind of abuse." Then the lawyers put the audio recordings up to the microphone, because remember, this is back before the digital age. Can't just push a button. They actually had to take a cassette player up to a microphone, put it up to the witness's microphone, and play everything he said to police investigators regarding this abuse. And then he said, "I don't recall any of this." So the plenty of argument that these statements of abuse were fabricated, if not grossly exaggerated. And regardless, what they did is not justifiable. They chased. Now, remember, Jose Menendez was the criminal here. So you can argue that Jose was supposed to die that day, but they chased their mom. They admitted they chased their mom with shotguns. And remember, they bought those shotguns in San Diego. That's about an hour and a half from Los Angeles. And they were all adults. They could have left. There was no urgency. They were not being kidnapped. And this whole thing about being threatened 2 days prior makes no sense.
Okay, so back to the election, because I'm not well versed.
Long story short, but here, I'll give you a short version. If those guys get out, any man or woman that has killed somebody a week or a month later after a threat was alleged, they're going to walk too. So no, you don't want them to get out, regardless of the hearsay and gossip that's going on with over X, Twitter. You don't want that. For your safety, for everyone's safety, I promise you don't want that. Okay. So where should we move to next?
Let's talk about the fucking election and what a mess it was. Like there were polls, right, that were kind of I was cautiously optimistic. But I think most people knew in the back of their mind that Trump had this stranglehold on middle America, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, this takes us back to something I've been saying for years. People can't afford Democrats, even if they more so believe in them. They can't afford them.
That is a good point. But Trump wants to raise the tariffs. He's already openly talked about that. Everything is going to skyrocket.
And remember, Joe Biden, here's the thing. Trump's tariffs were so good, Biden kept them. So we're getting
but now he wants to raise them 10% more.
Right. And no one said he's a smart man. No one said middle America is full of forward-thinking people. Okay, it does not matter.
People with IQ above room temperature. I know. I know that's not the way to talk. But I'm angry, so I apologize. Tariffs are good. No, tariffs are not good.
That's why Chipotle started raising prices. You say what you want about Chipotle. First off, they're good. So what if they're not authentic? They're not authentic south of the border burritos. For fuck's sake, they never said they were. They just said they're good.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And yes, and you have to also remember tariffs are the reason many farmers had to be bailed out by
absolutely, because when the it affects everything, and if you raise it 10% more, which again, a lot of this is just talk. This is just conjecture, things that Trump has said, right? And that's all we can go off of at this point. But if you raise it more, it is not only going to affect us, it's going to affect American-built businesses. Let's not play like it's not.
Oh, they're going to do lots of things that are going to affect everybody. First off, we also have to get something else established right now. We don't know who's going to control the House yet. We don't know which party is going to
it's likely Republicans. They've got a
It does look like it.
They've got the House, the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court.
Yep, and truth be told, yes, we could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Especially this is a party full of warmongers. The only thing that would temper them is the Supreme Court.
That's not even a fucking joke. Let me get this, and then I want to talk a little bit, because there is the real possibility about the war with Iran now. Robert says, technically it wasn't just the culture war. It was the last thing the right must be Isphobes, Razzies, because they don't share their views. And
in other words, labels.
Yeah, labels. And the right saying LGBTQ must be P words, groomers, or the left are commies or other extremes. It's getting worse. And it's only, okay, Robert, prepare And the popular vote too. And they got the popular vote. Yep, that's a good point.
They got everything. So now there's
for the first time
no
since
legal
Bush.
argument.
Yeah,
Right.
there's like I legitimately, when I was looking, yesterday was election day. I was looking at a bunch of shit. I literally watched a video by Young Ripa and Drunk 3PO where they're not even a joke. They either said Trump wins or the election was stolen. Like,
yeah, that's how they all are. That's every election.
They were preparing.
But
that's fucking
this is
insane.
what people don't understand. I know they would. Everybody preemptively copes. Tony was preemptively coping in case Democrats won. Okay, everybody was. That is standard. Sure. That is standard. I like Tony. Don't get me wrong. I gotta pick on him a little bit. I don't pick on him enough. I gotta pick on him a little bit.
Oh, I like Tony, but I pick on him a lot. He deserves it, to be fair.
He doesn't know me that well yet. I gotta earn it. But still, let's talk about how we ever got to this point in history. And this is something that I've brought up before in stages, in small amounts, small increments throughout the years here. How do we get to this point in history where we are fighting like this just for a political movement? It's age-old politics. I've explained this to you before. And I'm going to give you a lot of history in a short time. But I think everybody's in a learning state of mind, like I said, because they're frustrated. Some of you are frustrated. Some of you are shocked. Some of you are hopeless. Well, to whoever's listening, let's just get to the point quick. This all dates back to, this is the first email I ever sent to you, explaining that history briefly, where the Supreme Court one day said, we get to pick and choose what the Constitution means. And that was 1803. And that caused a lot of outrage because a lot of people didn't even want the Constitution to begin with. The only reason the Bill of Rights exists is because Rhode Island, a conversation started in Rhode Island. And they said the U.S. Constitution is a tyrannical document. Look at everything before the Bill of Rights, and it's all about empowering the federal government to rule the states with a simple majority rule. And remember, there were only 13 back then.
Right.
So 7 votes.
13 original colonies. No, sorry.
Right.
Go ahead. And that's in my head since the 4th grade. It's fine.
So all it really took is 7 votes to rule the rest. Okay. So, and a lot of people didn't want the U.S. Constitution because they saw it as a tyrannical document. The Bill of Rights was the final solution to get all 13 colonies assigned. And then comes 1803. The Supreme Court says this document only applies when we say it does. And that frustrated people. That caused more outrage. So then what happened? Well, people took different philosophies, different approaches to secure the Constitution. So is it a written document or does it evolve? Does the meaning evolve with time? And they've gone back and forward with this for basically ever since 1803. And you skip all the way ahead to today, we're still dealing with that.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
The Constitution was actually written to put severe limits on what's going on right now. And for the most part, I think the letter has been applied. But the reason we're here today is because people have been looking for excuses to throw out the letter. And those excuses were never supposed to stand.
Trump has already said about throwing out the Constitution.
Yes, he has. And I know people are going to fight you on that, but
no, he absolutely has, and that's terrifying.
I've seen the quote. He said it about the election.
Yep.
He said the way that went down warranted throwing out all the rules, even those in the Constitution. Okay. See, and like Trump for king, you see
this
that right
weird. There. No, it's weird. It's weird that somebody would be this obsessed with a politician. Nobody should be standing a politician this much. It's fucking weird, Tony. You're weird.
But that's also, I think he's just dicking you around.
I think he is.
But
too.
there is a huge chunk of conservative America that sees the president as a king. So and the republic was designed to keep kings out of the government. So that's why you've heard the term rhino before, Republican in name only. As far as I can tell, they're all Republicans in name only because they believe in monarchy, plain and simple.
Right.
And in order to do that, you got to pick and choose when the Constitution applies, which is exactly what the court does. And for no good reason, for no plainly written reason, they decided one day they get to handpick when our rights apply. Because I've mentioned this, the 14th Amendment. Mm-hmm. The whole reason that was written is to make sure the states are now restricted by the Bill of Rights. And then ever since then, courts have picked and chosen when it applies. Okay, and this happened. I'm going to keep it short because I've been saying a lot to make sure I'm not losing anybody. But basically,
Yeah, I think you're boring him.
This happened about 5 years after the Civil War. So about 5 years after a constitutional amendment was written to make sure black folk are people too. 5 years later, the Supreme Court said this area of the U.S. Constitution doesn't mean what you think it means, even though in plain writing it does. So,
okay, so I want to talk about a couple different things when it comes to Trump, like looking at the next 4 years, because I know and Zeke obviously makes a good point here. Why didn't he do it the first time? Well, he's had 4 years to organize, right? He's a lot more organized this time. And he said a lot. He's had 4 years to run his mouth. And that's the issue I have. So the first thing I want to talk about is him running his mouth about revenge. Where do you think that goes?
About revenge, that really depends. That would not, first off, that wouldn't be a good look for civility. It wouldn't reflect well on the party. We obviously are in the time of extremists. But when people start dying and when due process starts being shoved away, then we have the civil unrest that has been speculated since you and I were kids. And then we have a very serious problem. But to do that, to do a lot of what he says, actually, he would need a constitutional amendment. He doesn't have the votes for that.
Right.
Through statutes, that's kind of, what is he actually saying when he's talking about revenge on the left?
Right, exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. He talked about it the first time around with like the Clintons and some of his other political rivals, but now he's talking about it more to the degree where he was prosecuted. He wants revenge for that.
Yeah, that is. Well, he can try. Here's the thing: the courts would likely diffuse anything he does. I don't know exactly what he means by revenge. If he's talking violence, the U.S. Constitution doesn't allow for it. So a few people, let's say he is so extreme that he's actually getting laws passed, so he can. He first off, there's nothing. The Constitution forbids just shooting people on the streets.
Well,
you can't even shoot people. Yeah. Even people that cross the border.
But he is the president who said he could shoot somebody and not lose a single vote.
So let's dissect that.
Don't forget that.
He did. Oh, yeah, he did say that. But then also people talk about how he said the president can give an order to kill. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's how that works. There are actually two statements at play there. Yes, the president can give an order. Yes, he can speak the order. And that is within his discretion to speak. Now let's talk about whoever he's talking to. Whoever he's talking to does not now have free reign to kill anybody.
Right, for sure.
And that will for fact be a criminal. Now, the way his immunity is interpreted, the question would be whether or not he would actually be a criminal from there. Truth be told, he would have to be impeached and then investigated. So, like I said, he's not specifically immune. He's not necessarily immune. There's absolute immunity is what the courts call it, but it's not truthfully absolute.
Right.
They call that because, they say it because it's constitutionally fixed. The truth is, he does not have absolute reign to kill anybody.
Let's get this from Robert. He's got
no statute would be allowed.
Oh, sorry. Honest question for both of you. The Electoral College prevents the big cities, which are made up of mostly liberals, deciding elections, but people argue, I must have missed part of it. Should the non-city people dictate things for them, which is better, city or rural areas? The Electoral College is crap anyway.
The Electoral College was written to prevent tyranny. And this takes back to the conversation I mentioned before, where people said the U.S. Constitution is a tyrannical document. The Electoral College was picked because smaller states like Virginia at the time had a lower population, and they knew their vote would never matter. How you doing, Justice? So they knew their vote would never matter. So the Electoral College was chosen in the Constitution for states like that as a means of balancing out the majority. Because contrary to what so many people believe when talking about democracy, it's actually the key to tyranny. Because the vote empowers the government, and then the government is absolved of wrongdoing as long as they have majority vote. So that's what this kind of stuff was meant to limit. Representative democracy was written to limit this kind of democracy, because direct democracy is a great way to ruin a nation. It's a great way to ruin the state. In fact, we're having this problem in Southern California. All kinds of stuff just passed that should have never passed. Like we're having this huge tax
California
problem.
is wild.
California is the party Kamala represents, and this is something that this strikes people as a coping mechanism for liberals. They will vote Democrat in a seemingly religious way, but they will dismiss everything that goes on in California. Everything that went on in California is a preview of what would happen to the entirety of the United States if Democrats had everything they wanted. And forgive me, I sound like shit again. I'm sorry, it's that time of year.
Oh yeah, fucking allergies. Zeke said, "What politician took away my right? Not you're white and straight. You're good, buddy." No, I'm just teasing.
It depends what right you're talking about.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, let's just take a look at what's going on in California right now, so you guys can understand what's going on. Well, first off, I think Republicans proposed this. Let me just get this out of the way. Shoplifting. I think these take place in January, but as of this morning, shoplifting is now a felony.
Wait.
That means,
did that change from the $900 rule where you can walk in with $900?
Yeah, this now amends the rule. So
okay.
now,
all right. So that's now, I mean, that's probably. I feel like that's a good thing.
That means kids stealing candy bars are felons. This was asking.
What?
Yes, shoplifting.
No.
Maybe I missed the dollar amount. Let me see. Well, yeah, because here's what happened. They put two penalties on this bill. And this is why I don't agree with direct democracy as a priority. Because the bill said increases penalties for certain theft and drug crimes. In other words, shoplifting and fentanyl. Obviously, everybody is pissed off at what fentanyl is doing. I knew somebody. Yeah.
I know, like fentanyl is a fucking epidemic that did any politician talk about that? No, but they talked about
actually a lot.
Okay, I'm talking about Kamala and Trump. Was that a big selling point for one of them? No.
Trump, yes. Yeah, Trump has talked about the fentanyl problem millions of times.
Okay, well then
for a while he wouldn't even
does something about it. No. He shouldn't be shutting the hell up about it because that's a big fucking deal. I haven't heard shit about, nor had anybody do anything about, at least in my area. That's a big deal. It is killing hundreds of people.
Well, it is hard. I don't understand the political makeup of your area, but it's hard to pass solutions when people are just fighting for the vote. Because the parties, remember, generally they don't care. These guys are all millionaires. Yeah. Okay, the Democrats that were telling us to fight the rich white man, they were all rich white men and rich white women. Okay, and Democrats have a better stick. They can just take our tax dollars. So even if so no matter what donors they lose, they can always just take money from us. They're still going to live rich and large. They're going to live away from all our problems. Okay, the problems that are on the streets don't affect them. It's like the oldest problem in politics, or one of the oldest problems in politics. The politicians are above the problems on the streets.
Oh, for sure, but they try to act otherwise, and that's the thing. That's a big deal, and not only that, but prescription drug prices. That's a big deal. You know, trying to, and we have seen under Biden then go down to a certain degree, which is awesome. But when you're out there and you're campaigning saying a woman beat somebody up in the Olympics, instead of talking about what really matters, that gets under my skin.
And I agree that's none of that was important stuff. But if here's the thing, voters are voting based on the culture war too, not the important stuff. And I've been talking about this forever.
But isn't that kind of fucked up? It's so different than when I grew up. The first election was about policy that I voted in, right? The first election that I voted in, I actually was in my 20s because it was Bush, right? And I was 17. My birthday was on November 4th. The election was like the day before it. And I was so mad. I started working for the Kerry campaign and did a lot of work with them, did a lot of, canvassing and calling and poll. It was a good experience. But ever since then, it feels like we've dumbed down elections.
A lot of things have changed, and it has ultimately come down to the hot button issues. Like abortion was a big one. Gay marriage was a big one.
Let's talk about that one. You know what? That's a great.
Okay. Where
Comstock
will we
Act.
begin?
Comstock Act.
I'm not familiar with the letter of it.
Okay. Now the Roe v. Wade, it was on the books. It's been on the books, right?
Yep.
But because Roe v. Wade was obviously in play, there was no issue with the Comstock Act. Comstock Act says you can't mail things from state to state, whether it's abortion pills, which is most of the times there are abortions. It's mostly a pill, right?
Who's writing that?
Huh? It's been on the books since the 1800s. Okay, I don't know when exactly the year it's been on there. But now this is something Trump says he has said he will not do a national abortion ban, but he can use the Comstock Act to his advantage to make it harder, like for doctors to get their materials, for people to get what they need in an emergency basis. We just had somebody, I believe it was in Texas, die because they couldn't get what they needed.
Yeah, I am hearing about that. I know
Very
it was
young
car,
girl.
right? Something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have actually never seen the letter of the Comstock Act, so I'm gonna pull that up in a minute.
Well,
But
I mean, it's just something that Trump can use to his advantage now that Roe v. Wade does not ratify it, right? I'm not Amish. He's trolling you, Saw. I'm not Amish.
But anyway, as far as stuff like that, because there is also still some Supreme Court precedent that was not overturned related to abortion. I don't remember the exact case. It's been a while since I've actually revisited the cases, so I don't remember the exact names of each argument. However, First Amendment has some implication of privacy. There's still some privacy implications that came from that came from the days when we had the what the hell was his name? Earl Warren, the Warren Court. Mm-hmm. And the Warren Court was still to this day, seen as the most liberal court in the United States history. That was back when liberals were about liberation, though. So, as I mentioned, our rights don't restrict the states unless the Supreme Court says so. And that's why you've had so many issues with free speech, free press, and even religion and other issues going to the courts over and over. But the rest, like today, we look at this Constitution and we say, well, it's right there in writing. Why the hell do people keep bypassing this?
Right.
And that's because the Supreme Court selectively applies when these rights apply. That doctrine is called selective incorporation. That's a lot to explain. I won't try and do that in a short time. But bottom line, they have taken the 14th Amendment, which does not put this in writing, to say that the court can pick and choose when the states are restricted by the Bill of Rights. And the Warren Court they incorporated the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments, the amendments that protect us from the government. And this made conservative America very mad. You might imagine the Law and Order Party was very mad that the liberal court said that in writing, the 14th Amendment says you cannot search our homes freely. Okay, there has to be a warrant. There are warrant requirements, and if you violate the warrant requirement, the case is thrown out, or at least the evidence is thrown out, depending on how far they go.
That literally relates to what just happened with Breonna Taylor's murderer, right?
They
just finally got convicted.
One was convicted. I didn't follow step for step how that.
I haven't followed it step by step either, but there was a mistrial and it just went to a conviction.
Well, I know. Yeah, I did read there was a conviction. I didn't follow the whole thing. I've actually been doing a lot, so forgive me. But let's talk about constitutionally how that would apply. It doesn't make sense to me based on what happened. Now, this is the truth. There was no reason for her to die. Let's get that out of the way.
Oh, for sure.
Like legally, morally, wherever you stand on that issue, there was absolutely no reason for her to die. And yes, that is deprivation of life without due process. She wasn't even expected to be there. The cops in writing could not justify a hell of a lot, except that it was an accident. They did not fire the first shot. Now, constitutionally,
they broke into their house.
They
have every right to defend themselves with a no-knock warrant. Stop it.
Which is lawful.
It doesn't matter. They have a right to defend themselves.
So do the cops.
Right. But they broke into their house she shouldn't have died. Warrant.
No, but I'm not saying she shouldn't have died. This is what I'm getting at, though. Obviously, it was a tragedy.
Right.
But people are treating it like malicious intent. There is zero evidence of malicious intent. And in absence of that, people are fighting it harder to say it should be treated.
Not be legal. Stop it. If somebody breaks
They
into
are.
your house in the middle of the night, you have every right to defend yourself.
Yes. And people have shot cops successfully.
Rightfully
Because,
so. You break into my house, I'm going to shoot
under
you.
very limited circumstances, even in Texas, look, this even took place in Texas because cops went into the wrong house and the guy shot in the dark. And the man was not convicted. And by the letter of the Constitution, that's the truth. Now, remember, here's also what confuses the issue. Warrants cannot be issued without probable cause. So, in probable cause, it's not an abstract term. Probable cause means something probably happened. You're dealing with objective stuff. You're dealing with dead bodies, gunshots, screams.
You're dealing with objective stuff, probably.
Yes, if something probably happened, you need a reason to say it should have happened.
How many times have we seen cops say they've got probable cause to search your car when they had no fucking cause whatsoever?
They probably didn't. But this is also why lawyers will tell you, first thing you do when you interact with cops, first off, if you're pulled over, that is whether or not you believe you're lawfully pulled over. You just do it. No, unfortunately, you can't. No,
I'm one of those people that are like, I know my rights.
Yes, and this is a good way for you to screw yourself over. Now, listen.
Yeah, I don't really do
when
that.
I cry. Now, look, the first thing you say, you do it. First off, you do have to ID. Regardless, you do have to ID. But you say I will just say I'm choosing to remain silent from here on out. It doesn't matter if they get mad. Cops will do that sometimes. They think the system is broken because we have rights. Okay, just use your rights. The first thing you say, I'm choosing to remain silent from here on out. They pulled you over for something, right? The cop said you ran a stop sign, you're driving too fast, whatever. Whatever the case, just issue the ticket. Don't say anything. That way you cannot escalate the situation. And that matters because as soon as you assert that you say you asserted a right, especially if it's on body cam, then if cops start fabricating stories in writing, it doesn't hold. That's actually falsifying document.
What's that? Sad that we're at that point.
We've always had this right, though.
No. That's not what I'm saying. When I was growing up, I remember like my mom saying, if you ever got lost, go to a police officer. They're your friend. Like, we're at a point where I don't know. Okay, hold on. I don't know why that pinned comment from Val got deleted, but I'm going to repin this. I don't. It's scary that we're at that point that we are that scared of cops. Isn't that sad? In its own way.
Well, there's always been reason to have some reasonable fear of cops. Corruption is an age-old story. Here's the thing, guys. All of this comes down to constitutional issues. This has always been because the courts have picked and chosen not just when the Constitution applies, but they make shit up. Qualified immunity is an absolute myth. Yeah, there are recent arguments in recent years, I think, honestly, over the last 10 years, I think, where they said that the courts have argued that legislature intended for law enforcement to have common law immunity. Those who don't understand what that means, common law refers to law as it's practiced in the court. So if I've explained this before, if the court says no dead body, no murder conviction, then it stands. If the court says some evidence of a dead body is sufficient for a conviction, then it stands. And to this day, yes, some evidence of a dead body stands as enough evidence for a conviction. There have been guys that have been convicted because they had a limb in their house. Okay, and that doesn't right.
I mean, why would you have a limb in your house? I'm just saying.
Right, but because it was especially, and you've seen when it comes to issues like defamation, people say the other guy, like Alex Jones. Alex Jones never admitted he was lying. It doesn't matter. That's not how it works. The pattern in his behavior showed reckless disregard for truth, which is what the courts require. And that's a court ruling too, because that's how courts interpret the statute. Okay. That's how
you brought up media. That's a really good point. What do you think about Trump threatening the media?
Also, the first thing he did when he got into his first conversation, his first press release as president, first thing he did was kick out all leftist media, and the courts reversed it.
Yesterday? Are you talking about 2016?
He can't. First off, he can't. That's all talking shit. He can't do that. Remember, Trump is a federal officer. He's the highest federal official. The federal government cannot pass laws that require states to do it. They cannot pass laws that protect states. That's interfering with state jurisdiction.
Okay,
so if
but
it's not,
what were you talking about? I don't know that story.
which one?
Thank you, Jamal, about kicking out all leftist media.
Yeah, that was one of the first things he did as president.
In 2016.
2017.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, early 2017, he had there was a press, there was a speech he did. Not that big speech on the stage. It was inside a government. I think it was inside the White House. One of the first things he said, that's when he started saying, you're fake news. You have to get out of here. That's when that's when fake news originated.
Yeah. Okay,
That's
I do
how
remember
got
slightly.
popular.
But he wants almost revenge on media. Like censorship of media that is critical of him.
No, Mr. Smith, like many people, you don't understand the Constitution, but you're good with the propaganda, sir. No, federal officials cannot compel states to do anything. They can't really protect states. Federal laws are for federal officials to enforce. They can't compel states to do anything. So traffic laws are written by the states. That means the states have to enforce them. Federal government can't do anything. Like creating immunity for cops doesn't make sense because they're not federal actors. It's not constitutional. He's just talking shit. Okay, that's not how it works. If bottom line, guys, what he said there isn't true, it's not going to happen. He might get the law passed and then the courts will just shut it down. That's one of the oldest stories of politics in the U.S. The politicians pass laws based on the voter base, what the voters want, and then the courts stop it. And
Joseph,
then the
your
politicians get to
ADHD
say,
is acting up again.
Well, I was addressing that.
I know.
I told you,
kidding.
But that's the story. Hold on. That's the story. The story is, that Trump, during a press conference, he said he went to CNN. I think he was actually talking to someone from MSNBC at the time. So you're fake news, and he wanted them removed, and they were removed, and then the court stopped it. So ever since that day, Trump had to admit he has to deal with it because, contrary to what he says, the Constitution does apply to him. So that was a First Amendment violation. So he had to do what the courts say. Okay. Ultimately, he yields to the Constitution just like anybody else. It's just up to the courts to actually enforce the goddamn bill. Right? So that's what happened. What else? What do you think I'm missing now?
No. You're good. You're good.
Because I was talking about common law immunities. I was talking about the myth of qualified immunity.
Okay, I also want to address I wrote a couple things down I wanted to address. So we talked about abortion. I want to talk about mass deportation.
Okay.
What do you think do you think that's a talking point? Or do you think we're going to see people that have lives here, that have family here, that have jobs and are here legally deported?
I think if he acts on it immediately, he can have it done, and whoever's writing that bill, it needs to be responsibly written, because this has happened before in United States history. It was the Repatriation Act of 1931, where basically anybody that didn't look American, that's just like age-old stuff. Mm-hmm. You didn't seem American enough, or if you didn't speak English, you were just kicked out. The U.S. government would haul your ass out, and even English speakers still got sent to Mexico. U.S. citizens got sent to Mexico. Their papers were ignored, and they got sent to Mexico. And to this day, there are sons and grandsons, or kids and grandkids suing because their relatives were forced out of the U.S. unlawfully. So there is a risk to that kind of behavior.
Right.
If they are forward thinking at all, they will not do anything that brash, that quick, they will not do anything that dumb.
Like one of their points has been the Haitians in Ohio, but the Haitians are all here legally.
Well, they can try. Here's the thing: it's not outside of the rights of Congress to make that bill. However, they cannot deprive anyone of their other rights without due process. So you can't just force, if you think somebody's here illegally and you just force them into a cell and you don't have sufficient probable cause for that arrest, the courts just reverse it. And if you send somebody to another country, that's a different issue. but it's not supposed to happen until after some kind of trial, some kind of hearing. So in all likelihood, people would be gathered. Hopefully, and this is me being optimistic about it. People will be gathered, and then people will get their trial, and then, if it's done the right way, only people who truthfully are not here legally would be sent out. But but yes, it's within their rights. It is within their rights to actually pursue that, but not in violation of our rights. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, but I worry about the ones that are going back to really brash situations, right? Like, and I'm not going to go as far as a lot of people think it's xenophobic and stuff like that. I know there's issues with that, but I think the main issue is having some sort of safe haven here and going back to something that could cause their death, or, they're living in terrible situation. That's my issue when deporting people. Now, isn't there also still the anchor baby situation with DACA?
DACA is a heavily politicized issue. That's why even when Trump was here, for a while, Republicans didn't control the House, but they also don't really need to. The DACA did cause a lot of constitutional issues. DACA actually, truth to be told, by its layer, it's not legal. Congress has to write the bill. Remember that. You guys all know that one. Congress writes the bill, the president signs it.
Right, exactly.
Now, executive action is different. Executive action, yes, can be written in place of a congressional act, but the congressional act is ultimately superior.
This isn't racist at all, guys. Not even a little bit. Also, what's up, J-Dubs?
Hello, where you been, dude? We've been talking about you. We've been waiting for you to come back. Welcome. Anyway, so as far as the immigration issue, DACA, if they are going to jump on that and they're going to finally outlaw DACA, this is the time to do it. They have to do it early because Democrats can still come back. And if they do something stupid, which it's not beyond them, for Republicans, that's not beyond them. They found they are the reason we have that meme "Hold my beer." Okay, they've got that down to a science. But if they're going to do that, they have to do it early while they're riding a lot of momentum. Because 4 years is a long time to forget.
What? Yeah, and I mean, okay, let's be perfectly clear with a lot of the stuff we're talking about. A lot of it is just talking points, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't ever believe a politician. And Trump is a politician. I know people try to say he's not. He absolutely is. Don't believe a politician.
You voted for the guy.
Yeah.
The guy you vote for is a politician. Drop that shit. I don't know who came up with that. Here's the problem,
he's
guys.
The everyman, people would say, but no, he's a politician. He has been for a very long time. Just because he was a Democrat before doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger did the same thing when he became governor of California. He's not a politician. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Say that one more time.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay, go ahead. I can't say
it's not my channel. I don't care.
Yeah.
Anyway, Big Arnold, he ran on that. He said he's not a politician. He's the everyman. He said, I got millions of dollars. I don't need your taxes. I don't need to screw you over to get money. Okay. So, and unfortunately, a lot of people bought that. A lot of people really believed that voting in somebody who made his money outside of politics was a solution. So that's when, that was well before Trump. But going into Trump's presidency, I thought people learned that lesson, and they didn't. It's just something interesting. But you already know they can talk shit all they want. They can talk shit to get the vote all they want. And unfortunately, some people just want that because people care more about political propaganda than the Constitution, than the actual laws. Okay, they don't understand it. You still have people talking like the myths of democracy, the myths of Christian values enshrined in the Constitution. First off, your values are up to you. That's called individual rights. Democracy is controlled by the Constitution. But no matter who you break that down to, people are still going to talk about the propaganda, and that's the stuff that puts people in elected seats. From Donald Trump talking about immigrants eating cats, to
that was the best meme of the year. I'm not gonna.
Oh, that was funny. No, that was great, and I actually haven't paid
funny
close.
How absurd it was. It was, and then everybody was making like songs making fun of them. It was funny.
And then you also have the left wing. Let's talk about this for a little, because that's really what you're wondering. How the hell did Republicans get this far? What did Democrats do so bad? Well, they did everything wrong. They 100% did everything wrong.
Yeah.
They ran on the gay marriage issue, and that was all for votes too. There was a time when Democrats had all of Congress and the White House, and instead of protecting gay marriage, what they passed instead was the Defense of Marriage Act, which protected heterosexual.
In 2015, marriage.
Right? I don't remember the date, but it was ruled unconstitutional and for the right reasons. But it's not a 14th Amendment issue, so that's why the issue is ongoing. So for those who don't understand it, what the Supreme Court didn't say equal protection, therefore also protects gay marriage. It's not a 14th Amendment case. There's elsewhere in the Constitution basically means a license in one state has to be honored in another state. So that's why you drive across the country, unless there's something about the state's terrain or something about the state's laws that are so drastically different, a license in one state has to be honored in all states. And the same thing held with marriage licenses. So because there was no way to justify any rejection of a marriage license from one state, like California in Kentucky, that meant that gay marriages had to be upheld regardless of where it came from. So that's why two guys can get married in California, they can move to Kentucky or Indiana where they're likely to get shot, and they're still going to keep their marriage license.
Oh my God.
Right. So that's ultimately what the court said, that marriage in one state has to be honored in another. Still not a 14th Amendment ruling.
Okay? But it's better than nothing.
But truth be told, it is better than nothing, but it's still ignoring the letter of the Constitution. Okay. More than that.
This is a great point. Where do you get this idea that a fascist won't burn the Constitution to get what they want? He's literally said.
Right. And that's actually when I'm explaining in different words, Val. They're all looking for a way to burn the Constitution. Everybody hates the Constitution until they need it. How many people have said the right of silence? The right of silence is proof of a crime. You have this. Right.
You've had Trump literally saying that cowards only plead the fifth, and then he pled the fifth.
Yes. But for people who don't understand, when you go to criminals, first, if you're a criminal defendant, you have absolutely no obligation to testify to defend yourself. You just have to be present at your own trial, but you have absolutely zero obligation to speak. And the lack of speech is not evidence against you. In fact, if anybody in the government attempts to frame your silence as evidence of a crime, charges can be dropped or a whole case can be dropped. That's what happened in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. You can watch this video where the judge is ripping apart the prosecutor, because that's exactly what he did. He mentioned that Kyle refused to give statements. And after the objection, the judge asked the jury, or he told the bailiff, can you walk them to the library, please? And whether you're a defense attorney or you work for the state, if the judge tells the jury to leave after you have spoken, that means you're in trouble. And theoretically, yes, it can lead to charges in court. Depends on how severe it is. That's less likely, but the point is, your right of silence is yours, and it's not evidence of a crime.
Oh, that's a good question.
We'll get to that next. But Donald Trump pled the fifth after years of saying you only plead the fifth.
Yep.
You only plead the fifth when you're guilty. When you go to your criminal trial and you don't take the stand, that's pleading the fifth, because you are not acting as a witness against yourself, which is exactly what the Constitution prevents.
But
you cannot be compelled to do that. Right. So if what he was saying is true, then that's criminal, but it's not. And I'm not going to throw it back in his face like that, just to smart ass at him. Point being, guys, he went against his own words, but everybody does that. That's the thing. This is all possible, largely. Taxes are a different issue. But this is all possible because everybody is disregarding the letter of the Constitution to some degree. The Democrats still lie about the hate speech exemption to the First Amendment. It does not exist. Right. And you're
Right.
seeing now, especially with the concerns of Project 2025 gaining any real momentum, they wanted
I do want
to.
to address that at some point.
Well, we'll talk about that right now. We can get into that. So one of
Well,
the
I
things
want
they,
to know Trump's stance on weed.
I don't remember, guys. Remember, I didn't vote for Trump. I just don't give a shit about Democrats. Remember that. I
Trump's
didn't vote
stance
for
on
either of
weed.
these
Okay,
shitheads.
it looks like proposed removing protections for state laws, medical. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a smart move, but I mean, I feel like not very many people are against marijuana.
No, but it's within the rights of Congress to regulate. So whatever happens from there would be constitutional, but then you still have Fourth Amendment rules that apply. So they
So
can't
this
just.
is a state issue. Why not protect it at a federal
No,
level?
it's a federal issue. It
It's
is
a
a federal
state.
issue.
It's legal in certain
No.
states.
Yeah,
Like
that
it
doesn't
just
mean it.
passed in Florida.
A legality in a state does not supersede illegality
For
in the
sure.
federal government.
Right.
It's still
Exactly,
illegal.
which makes it
No,
so stupid. They need to protect it at a federal level.
they probably won't, because you have to remember a lot of, especially the cartels in Mexico, as much as people want to say weed is just a plant, the cartels don't agree. And they are at war with American citizens over weed. So there is some legitimacy in regulating that. And the federal law, by the way, guys, still stands.
Regulating, not elite. You've got people that have served
No.
prison sentences for marijuana.
Yeah.
That's fucking wild.
Some of those people in possession of marijuana were also dealers who have killed people. I just remember that.
Some.
The government
some
followed the
people were
drugs to those killers.
Sure. Not all of them. Let's not pretend like it's all of them.
I didn't say that, but
Okay.
I'm trying to I'm offering that to help you guys balance out the conversation and understand it, because everything's about platforms, everything's about political propaganda, everything's
For sure.
about partial issues. I'm trying to give an impartial presentation. There's more to it. A lot of people say it's just a plant until they get killed over just a plant. And that's really what the laws are really meant to address.
I am talking about your normal recreational smokable
Understood.
before bed smoker.
Okay, well,
I'm not talking about dealers. I'm not talking about people that have dealt fentanyl and killed kids. I'm talking about your normal recreational smoker, which is, let's be real, 90% of smokers.
All right, well, let's go with that. As far as what Republicans want, if they get the House, and I don't think we're going to know for sure for a few weeks, because for some reason that those elections take a little bit longer. But anyway, if they get full control of the House, yeah, whatever their stance is, they're going to tell the people what to think. It's going to be a while before anybody stops them. And then even if they lose elections in another 2 years, 4 years, because the congressional elections are actually on a 6-year rotation. So somewhere in the middle of this presidency, there will be another election.
Yeah, in 2026, the primaries.
Yeah. So it's gonna come up soon. It's gonna come up, somewhere, like I said, somewhere in the middle, and that all depends. Now, let's say Republicans get their way. Let's say they want an outright. Well, first off, it is still illegal at the federal level. Obama wrote to I think it was I forgot what agency he wrote to, but he sent a letter. He basically gave an order and said, the federal government is not going to enforce marijuana offenses. They're going to leave it to the states.
Yeah. And I don't disagree, and I don't think that's necessarily a horrible thing, but I also see the medicinal value in it. And I do think a lot of it is not just like you were talking about cartels. I think it's more along the lines of big pharma.
Mm-hmm. Well, if they have any donors from big pharma, they'll probably, if they do pass anything, they'll probably pass some kind of federal protection for medicinal uses, but probably not for recreational uses. If we look back at history, I don't see Republicans offering any specific protection for it.
Granddaddy Otaku did say that they said that both Vance and Trump said that they don't want to touch it federally, leave it at a state level, which I get, but I just think that it's more of an issue with big pharma because, you see these amazing stories of people that are having seizures and having medicinal marijuana and how much it helps and not having to get to be on a bunch of
Other
seizure
drugs.
medication. Exactly. And you see this with antidepressants, or there's a bunch of stories out there, right? So
Yeah.
I do think it is an issue of not wanting to touch that Pfizer money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's again the no problem in politics too. They follow their donors more so than anything else.
Yeah.
But
For fucking
that does
sure.
depend. I don't know who would pay them to. I don't know who would pay them for what. That's well into the realm of speculation. That's not stuff personally I'm interested in. But if we're talking about what Congress can do, what if Republicans get all chambers, because they still don't have total control. With the elections up, they still don't have total control. It's going to be a little bit.
All right, let's talk about the big boogeyman in the room.
Okay.
Project 2025.
All right, yes. So we were talking about this a moment ago. One of the unconstitutional things they want to do, they want to presume the conversation around transgenderism as a type of, and first off, I know that's a dumb word too. I'm just telling you what they said. Well, basically any conversation around transgender people, politics, whatever, I guess just bringing it up, they want to treat it like obscenity to bypass and remember, it's just a conversation.
When you said that. Like, I was genuine. I don't even remember what game I was playing, but I was dumbfounded when you said that they wanted to treat talking about transgenderism as obscenity.
Yeah, that was a few days ago. Yeah, there was a few days. And
like, I thought you were being a troll for a second. I'm not going to lie.
No, I know it's funny because it is the kind of shit I would say, but no, for once, guys, I'm not talking shit. What they really want, that is something they did that I found out about. We didn't cover that when we covered this topic, and they didn't delete the video because we were talking about Project 2025. It's because you showed me an AI video of Donald Trump, and I asked you if that was an AI video. You said no.
Wait, that video?
Yeah, that video where Trump was supposedly talking to, in an interview, he said he can make Republican voters believe anything.
That's not AI.
That video is nowhere on the net.
That's not AI.
Okay, apparently
that's not why it was deleted. It was deleted for misinformation. That it was not AI. Even Tony was in the stream that day and said, "Yeah, we've seen this before. We don't care."
Okay.
Yeah, that's not AI.
I want. I get again, and whatever the case is, I don't think talking about this is why it was deleted. I still want to see that video again.
That was ridiculous. YouTube doing YouTube things.
Yeah. Well, it's not just YouTube, everywhere. So anyway.
That's fair.
That approach, guys, this has already been done. This is the same reason flag burning. I think I'm getting worse. I actually am, yeah.
Anyway. Flag burning? Is that in Project 2025?
That's conservative America. They are always looking for free speech exceptions. They're just always going to blame the liberals. Give me a minute. I'll be right back.
All right, you're good. You're good. I highly doubt that Project 2025 is going to do anything meaningful. It seems more like a tool. I don't know if it's a tool to entice voters, but I don't. So the only thing that even worries me about Project 2025 is it's super fascist, for one. Like, it is. Yeah. And the foreword, I think it was the foreword, was written by J.D. Vance.
Might have been, and I don't know if he has anything to do with the Heritage Foundation, which is another, just like any constitutional movement. I'm okay, dude. It's just a fluke, and if anything, anyway, the Heritage Foundation, who founded this Project 2025, they're a religious conservative movement that believes they understand the Constitution better than anybody, to the point where they will tell you that there is no such thing as birthright citizenship, which is and shit you not, it's the first sentence of the 14th Amendment. The amendment that I have told you guys over and over, politicians keep attacking, because that is the one that empowers the people the most. The politicians can't do anything with that amendment in the way. So the courts keep picking and choosing when it applies. And that's one of those things. However, that first line that says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and citizens of the state where they're fucking born. Those words in where they're fucking
Yeah.
born. That's in the goddamn Constitution.
Where they're
words,
fucking born says that.
Okay. And it's been challenged 3 times in the United States Supreme Court, even at times where Confederates were in the court, and it's still lost. People got here. Let me, just in case people have doubts about it. That line was written because you have former slaves you have former black slaves that were forced here. Okay, you know that they came here, they were sold, bought, kidnapped, whatever the hell, whatever story you prefer, fine. But they were here in the United States against their will. That amendment was written so that anybody, and that language was purposely chosen so that anybody born here, and there will not be an excuse, anybody born here was a United States citizen. That is the specific intention of that area of the amendment. Okay, there's no mythology surrounding that. But today, Heritage Foundation, they will tell you it's not true, that it was actually only for the children of U.S. citizens. And again, this has been fought. Yeah, and it's already been fought 3 times, even when Confederates ran the courts, even when Confederates were picking and choosing when the 14th Amendment applies. They said this proves anybody born here is a United States citizen. Doesn't matter if mom and dad came here illegally.
Yeah, and that's why I used the term anchor baby earlier. I don't know if that's insane. I don't know if that's offensive, but it is what it is.
You're an offensive person.
I know.
So the DACA issue. The DACA issue is different because you have to remember this has to do with minors that were forced into the United States illegally. The U.S. Constitution doesn't provide an immediate remedy, and the statutes that exist don't provide a civil remedy to this because it doesn't address the issue that people see. Somebody is forced to commit a crime. And elsewhere in the United States, we have common law defenses for this. Self-defense is a common law defense. It means the courts recognize that the rules of evidence.
We're not listening to Tom McDonald. God, the cringe is real.
I'm lucky guys like that aren't allowed to be played at work anyway. So anyway, there is no common law exception to that. And that, for those who don't understand, a common law says like self-defense. That's a common law exception. The law says battery and assault is the crime. So the initial aggressor is the one blamed, not you, the one who's in a defensive position. So self-defense is a common law exception, but it has to be imminent. Somebody has to be attacking you in the moment in order for you to prove you are not responsible for that crime.
I am not Amish, James. You are out of control.
That's not James.
I know, he's asking James. I'm putting this up on the screen because I want to address what Todd said. But go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, so anyway, so in other words, there's a similar example. If you trespass, so you hop a fence, you don't live there, obviously. But if you did that to escape a crime, you can't be liable for trespassing. Now, those are all common law exceptions, affirmative defenses that are upheld in criminal courts. The federal government federal courts don't seem to uphold any kind of common law exception for people who are forced here. If you are in the United States illegally, it's actually, I don't think it's a felony. I don't know exactly what the penalty is, but it is a federal crime for a fact. So you will be a criminal even if you were forced here.
Right.
So a lot of people see an issue with that.
Of course.
Especially kids, because kids do get forced here. That's the nature of being a child around the world. Some things you just have no control over. So that's what DACA was meant to address. And Congress wouldn't act. And as you imagine, it was a political issue. Regardless of what they say, they have very strong anti-immigrant stances on the right wing, to the point where they even want to get rid of the H-1B, which is a visa just for educated persons.
Right.
It's just for educated people to come to the U.S. I think it's 5 years at a time, and you work. But you need a bachelor's degree minimum, and you need the job to get the sponsorship. So you're going to live in the U.S. You got to pay your own bills, including your own taxes. But that's what it's for. And Republicans even want to get rid of that. They were talking about getting rid of that when Obama was around. Yep. So the anti-immigrant thing is a real thing. And that seems to be something that Project 2025 intends to continue. Amongst other things, I don't know if they'll really see it through. But like I said, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it early.
Well, the like I said, I know Trump has dismissed it and tried to distance himself, and I don't know if he's condemned it, but I know he's definitely tried to distance himself from it.
Yeah.
JD Vance is the one that worries me because he will be in power. But a lot of what is in that project is just completely illegal. Like, just you can't making transgender obscene. And I think it was Gary that said the other day, well, it is a mental illness. That's like saying we should make depression
I think
obscene.
Gary, because Gary, if I remember, let me actually, I know I already said the name. I'm not going to use names anymore because I'm trying to give something more impartial. Well, a lot of people read like the DSM manuals, or if you're in the UK, they have a different one.
Right.
They don't use the DSM over there. But anyway, they read it by the letter. And a lot of people go straight to the diagnosis without the introduction that specifically explains that these are largely recommendations and they're not. So just because you have one or two symptoms doesn't mean you're dysfunctional.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So yeah, so when it comes to stuff like this with homosexuality and stuff, which has been removed from the DSM since I think
Yes.
the 50s, maybe the 60s, okay, but it's been gone a while for a good reason.
Since the
Anyway,
lavender scare area.
so anyway, if you read the letter, it would suggest to you, yes, that some people who are not heterosexual or no, gender dysphoria is actually, I think, what he meant to talk about. So
Right.
yes, that's something that's in there, but the symptoms are a bit more specific than people think. It's not just it's not just like when kids are having hormonal issues and puberty issues. That's not enough, and that's treated with hormones anyway. But if you go by the letter, that will also mean anybody with a religion would be schizophrenic or some kind of delusion, would be suffering from some kind of delusion.
Right. But at that
Right.
point, people pick and choose.
Right. Then all of a sudden there's context, right? So that's why I know people just passing on that propaganda, that's not going to do anything for you guys. I can already see it happening in the federal government at this point.
Yeah.
But all said and
That's
done,
why I said the culture war was such a big talking point this time around, and it's what won the election.
the culture war is definitely part of it, but that's not all of it. When it came to the stuff where Democrats severely failed, the numerous excuses they made for the reformist district attorneys, that's what they're called, the guys that almost don't prosecute at all. Like Gascon, he's finally voted out. Fuck yes. You have no idea how much worse he made Southern California. But in my small town, the crime that you were seeing on the news, we almost never saw that. But now that Los Angeles County just refuses to prosecute in some cases, those criminals, they're all over Southern California. They think it's everywhere. They don't understand it's actually just Los Angeles County, but they think it's everywhere. My county actually prosecutes, but so much stuff happens, the cops can't keep up with everything. So now that he's gone, that's going to be a big relief. It's going to be a while before we see any real changes, but that's a big relief. And generally, Democrats were numb to this. Now, what they will point to is the crime data, how crime reports have gone down. And yes, that's true. There are two reasons for that. Chiefly, people get hopeless because cops will just say, call us if you need anything. And that you can only do that so many times before.
And people stop calling.
Yes. And now here's another thing. Police presence has shrunk. Funding is part of it. The job is part of it. Some of them were just crooked cops that found out they can't actually get away with everything and walked away.
I mean, they still have police gangs over there. Let's not even pretend.
Yeah. And they're not going to do anything. So there's a policy. There's now a new policy in the LA Sheriff's Department against deputy gangs. Whoop-dee shit. It doesn't. I could go on a separate stream on why that's not going to hold. It doesn't do anything. Right. Bottom line, if you don't actually catch them committing a crime outside of the time they're supposed to be wearing their badge, it just doesn't hold.
Yeah.
So good fucking luck because nobody's investigating them. Anyway, the general numbness they have shown to the concerns, from the shoplifting to the violence on the streets. Gascon was the biggest star in all of this. His name, the LA District Attorney, his name was George Gascon, and he was the best preview. And he was the biggest preview.
That's a fucking song from Beauty and the Beast. Shut up.
And he was the best preview into how Democrats view crime. The reformist DAs blame the prison system solely and never the individuals,
Right.
apparently. So because of that, Gascon said one of the things he wouldn't do, he would not pursue anything greater than 15 years. You might have seen a Netflix documentary. There was a very, very small boy. I think he was six or seven. He was tortured out in the sun until he died.
Jesus.
That was in the LA County. And those people shouldn't be free ever again. But he didn't. I think he only saw it about 7 years, 8 years.
What?
Yeah. And then the issues with them, then there's not going to fly. And then this was really hard to watch. You can watch this on local news channels. That's all over YouTube. This woman was pushing a baby in a stroller. We have the kind of neighborhoods where we have alleys and brick walls that separate the properties. And some of these alleys, it's not a lot of room to pass through if two cars are passing by.
Right.
This guy was driving way too fast, made a turn. He swiped. Mom went on top of the car.
Oh my God.
The stroller was struck. The baby is no longer with us.
Oh my God.
The baby's gone. Gascon gave that man 5 months unsupervised probation.
No!
Unsupervised probation for that. Yes. And unfortunately, that came at a time. His opponent that has now won the LA District Attorney's Office. His name is Nathan Hochman. At that time, Nathan Hochman ran for the state's attorney general, which is the office that can take any investigation from any sheriff, any district attorney, and they can run it themselves. And that was what he ran on. Nathan Hochman wanted to take all the investigations from the leftist district attorneys that weren't investigating. However, he lost, and he was Republican back then. He changed his registry to independent, and then he won LA by 63% as of this morning.
The left being so lax on crime is definitely a real issue with a lot of just centrist, right?
Mm.
Which I definitely think I'm more centrist. I don't fucking know. I'm more centrist, left-leaning centrist.
Here's the truth, and again, this is something I've been talking about for years, that I don't think as many people are diehard to, they don't actually commit to the platform as much as people think.
Yeah,
but they are the loudest voices on the internet. And the loudest voices have always been the worst ones. They've always gotten the most. They've always been the ones most amplified. They get all the credit for everything, and they get all the blame for everything. So everybody else, people like me that want nothing to do with it, I just suffer the consequences while both of you fight. So that's what, when I said both of you, I wasn't actually directing that at you for once.
I know what you mean. There's a couple things that I start here that I want to talk about. Todd, first off, so is Trump really attacking the LGBTQ? I mean, when it comes to trans rights, for sure.
Well, yes, and let me, first off, these are people too. And like I said, these are people too. Remember, my stance on the Constitution is about individual rights. These all belong to individuals, and that by the letter of the goddamn Constitution, that is the literal intention of the Constitution. If you're accused of a crime and you have to face due process, you're facing it as an individual, not a collective. It doesn't matter what the mood of society is. The mood of society is rendered irrelevant in the United States court.
Okay, but when he goes on tangents about men fighting women in, the Olympics, right?
Right.
And that was the newest one that I've seen, at least, when it came out that, she's obviously a woman. But when he goes on tangents like that, I think a lot of people look at it as an attack. Not just on that person individually, but as attack on the community as a whole. And I know you don't like labels, and I totally get. I am all in on the individual, right?
Okay.
But when you constantly are going at stuff like that, people get bugged by it after a while, and then
yes.
and people look at it like an attack.
Well, it's definitely political. At least, first off, yes, there's a huge chunk of America that does not have tolerance for it. Right. We get that. And there's also a huge chunk of America that has lost patience for it because it's all over the news, treated like an issue, treated as something that's supposed to be met with certain sensitivity. But when it gets to the point where, yes, girls are getting hurt by guys, and then you have this a politicized constituent that just says, you know what, shit happens, then yes, people start getting mad. And then it
Right.
stops looking like a rights issue. Now it looks like a safety issue. And
Right.
once it's a
And like
safety
with
issue, people ignore the rest of it.
well, and I know I don't agree. Like there was a boxing match, and I don't remember. I've used this example before. Just absolutely, I think the name was Fallon, maybe.
Oh yeah, Fallon Fox.
Fallon Fox absolutely obliterated the girl,
Right.
and it was just it's horrifying to think about. But also at the same time, we have to think of their individual rights too. So it's such a catch-22. Because you want to include trans people in the conversation. You want them to be able to have all the rights that we enjoy. But at the same time, you can't take away a woman's right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to sound like some weirdo turf.
Here's the thing. The sports issue, again, traces back to a constitutional issue. Like everything in the United States law, it ultimately does. When it comes to individual rights and something like this in sports, it does highlight a problem. Because if you separate men and women without legitimate reason, that's a violation of our Constitution. Now, let me give you an example of an exception. There are some jobs that are so physically demanding, it's almost unreasonable to expect women at all. There's a name for it. I have that in my phone somewhere. Even under California law, if the employer can prove that the physical demands are so demanding that, let's say, a woman couldn't possibly do the job, but that's because the job is hard, not because the employer is pushing the women away. It's because the job is necessarily that demanding.
Right.
Okay, the employer cannot be liable in the civil court for any kind of discrimination, or any workplace violations. It's impossible because the job is so demanding. Similarly, I'm an atheist. I can't get a job in a religious organization. If my job is to speak on religious messages that I don't sincerely hold true, I can't play a victim. I can't just play a victim to get money in civil court.
Right.
That's not how it works. Okay. So there are exceptions, but they're really, really hard to highlight. Here, I think the problem is highlighted because there are similar risks in grappling sports. There are weight classes for a reason.
Right.
Men and women are separated for good reason. Because even when men and women are similar weight, men will definitely hold a strength advantage. But still, in grappling sports, they do this. They
and
still
what you
have
just said right there, men will definitely hold an advantage.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes, and I see J-Dub said have a transport league. The problem is there's so few. And that's where it becomes an issue though, because
actually you don't even have to do that. That's what I'm saying. This issue is solved. It's just people aren't really looking at the solution like a solution. Weight classes do help a lot. So it's like like you said, there are some grappling sports where males and females go compete against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, sometimes the women do win. But they have to be similar in weight. And they weigh in, they do multiple weigh-ins. So look,
but it's not just weight that's an issue, it's testosterone and estrogen that you have to measure too.
No, don't get me wrong. The cheating is they don't think they really do that. I don't think they do that kind of drug testing there. Anyway.
That could be, yeah.
But still, a lot of times if you look at the videos of it, these are usually really skinny guys going against average size women. So it doesn't look like, it's not like these people are jacked and going nuts. Okay. I haven't seen that yet, but it does seem like the sports do have a solution. They're just not they're not using it because it's not a popular solution yet. And so they don't have to fight it like that. They don't have to fight it through Congress. They don't have to fight it through the states. This is something that can easily be settled by the sports organizations. Just organize. And with the issue, well, first off, with the issues, I'm addressing Jay in the chat because he mentioned bone density. That's fights, first of all. I was talking about grappling sports.
Right.
So you're not supposed to be punching there anyway. So yeah, bone density, yes. When it comes to like boxing, by example, bone density is still a big issue. The gloves protect your hand. That's a huge misconception. The gloves protect your hand. They don't protect the other guy from the punch. Some people just get slapped with the glove in training, but when you fight, it's your whole body weight going into that punch. So glove or no glove, you're still taking somebody's whole body weight to your skull, and it's an issue. So when it comes to boxing, something like that, yes, is an issue. Even with that in mind, and truth be told, yes, that is a sincere safety issue. Again, if that safety issue is compelling enough, yes, the states would have right to regulate on those grounds. But otherwise, it still seems so far this can be mitigated and just left out of the fucking news for 5 minutes. If you just go, if the organizations just regulate, and then we won't have to talk about this in elections, whether or not trans people are people. Yes, they're people.
Of course they are.
Okay, yeah. So we don't have to bring that up. I think really people just got to understand the organizations, they're all privately run. They have options for solution. And sports require fitness. That's another thing. So just because everybody can't go to one sport doesn't mean there's any discrimination. Lots of people for different reasons won't be fit for sports.
Get some water, Joseph.
I have some water with me. It's just I'm getting worse. That's all it is.
And not only that, but another issue I can see, and I seen Todd said that the suicide hotlines are swamped right now, and that's horrifying. That is a lot of fear mongering, which is a little bit scary.
Just because Trump won, or what?
Yeah, because Trump won. With LGBTQ people calling, it is. I would agree that that is a lot of fear mongering there. But I also worry about trans kids, right? Mm-hmm. Under this administration, I don't.
This is the only thing I hope they do. I honestly, truthfully want those surgeries outlawed.
Before 18?
Altogether.
Wait, altogether?
Yeah, look, when I first got here, we talked about this. I said you grew up, a bad decision is still a decision for you. And even when it comes down to these surgeries, and I would have never told anybody you should get that surgery, but I respected that ultimately a bad decision is still a decision. But there are also scams at play. And remember, we talked about this when we had Abel Garcia.
Yeah, for sure. But that's not every situation.
How many situations does it take? I think that the issue, if they cannot correct,
but if you're in your 20s, you're an adult. You should be able to make medical decisions. It shouldn't be outlawed for adults. That's crazy. You realize that, right?
No, it's not crazy. To protect people from a scam that could theoretically be life-threatening or life-altering, no, I don't believe that's crazy whatsoever. Just like we have workplace restrictions, we have workers' rights to keep us from getting cheated out of money at work. Getting cheated out of money ain't life and death.
That's not the same thing.
No, it's not, but it's still there. But the right to regulate is still there. And there's reason for that regulation. That's in that case, it's for our money.
So people like Blair White, Samantha Lux, like these people shouldn't exist.
I said it shouldn't exist
in the form that they want to.
No, I've reached some new conclusions since we got
surgery.
Here. Same thing. If plastic surgery is just getting
plastic surgery outlawed.
No, but if people are getting scammed and they're first off scamming people during plastic surgery is still a crime. Okay, but plastic surgery is obviously completely cosmetic. You don't have to get castrated to get fake tits. Just some people are doing both for some reason.
Okay, Blair White has fake tits. And I use her as an example because most people know her, guys.
But anyway, and look how you had to apologize for that. That's interesting.
Wait, apologize for what?
Well, not apologize. No, that's the wrong word. You had to qualify your statement. Like you had to justify the use of Blair.
That's because she's ridiculous sometimes.
Anyway.
Like the fact that you can't honestly think it's okay to dictate a adult health care, right?
There are lots of things that dictate adult health care, like using meth. We're using high degrees of meth to treat a heart condition. We're
not talking about a drug addiction. We're talking about an adult transitioning here. I don't believe you're serious right now.
No, this is what I'm saying. There are too many scams going on. When there are nothing but scams going on, if the law were to say this practice needs to be outlawed until there is better evidence that this is treating a problem. Yes, that is sane.
Using the 1% as the rule, the detransitioners as the majority.
How many people have to die before the point matters?
Who are you talking about that died?
Wait, in any medical treatment. I'm about for transitioning specifically. I don't know, but that's not even what I'm talking about. These people are changing themselves for life,
right? And they're adults doing so.
Yeah, but if they're adults being scammed, that's not justice. That's not justified.
Who said they're being scammed? Because we
had this conversation with Abel.
Right. That was one person. That was not every single person.
We established it's just one person. Now how many does it take before you are convinced?
How many happy trans people does it take before you're convinced?
Well, my question was
I
for
can
you.
give you
I
a
know.
lot.
Well, I know my answer, but my question was for your answer. So what is your answer?
It would have to be the majority, and it's not. It's simply not.
That's how many, a majority of what? So that if that's 10% of the population, how many hundreds or thousands of people have to die before you say,
who's dying? Even when we talk to Abel, he's not dead.
I said if. No, I said okay, fine. We'll move out of that hypothetical because you're looking for ways around it. The bottom line, people are getting scammed into these surgeries. People, and you saw what happened to Abel. He got the surgery in no time, and it took him years to have everything reversed. That's an issue. And as for kids,
honestly, I okay. Joseph, normally I think you're pretty level-headed, but that is wild to think that adults can't make their own healthcare decision.
It's not and as an absolute, but there are safety exists for a reason. Just like people without seatbelts. Perfect example. Would you abolish the law at a national level for seatbelts?
No, that seatbelt is not an adult healthcare decision.
Yes, if you get in a car accident and fly your ass out of the car, it's a very
and very how many times have we heard, well, not having a seatbelt on saved my life? Is that a scam?
Not having, yeah, we've heard that dozens of times. Of course, it's stupid. The airbag saved me. No, the airbag didn't save you. You had the seatbelt on. That's not what I'm
saying. People have lived and flew out of the car and lived because they didn't have their seatbelt off or on. Is that a scam? Because that's what you're equating it to. A scam?
No, that's not a medical scam. That's not a doctor advising you to keep your seatbelt off, for fuck's sake.
Exactly.
No, hold on. Now they're saying I lost a chat when it's you. Yes, look, Risa, you're
saying that being transgender should not be allowed.
Right, because it's not proven to address a problem. There's a lot of propaganda at play.
Oh,
and there are people.
Oh my God!
I know, but here's the thing: do you even care? If that's true, do you even care? And that's why I ask you that.
Of course, I care about people being happy in their adult life. I'm not
safe.
Safe? Yeah, absolutely. They're under the care of a medical doctor.
What? Wait, medical doctors never let people down?
Sure.
Even for legitimate medical doctors, and you know this because you went to nursing school. You understand there are risks to everything. That doesn't mean do nothing.
They are taking that risk to be the person that they want. Just like the people having plastic surgery or taking Ozempic, right?
So you're blaming the customer.
Yes, we are responsible for our own decisions.
Well, where was that when we were talking about how fans ruin entertainment?
Because that's putting out a product. You're talking about a medical decision.
Yes, here I am, but I just wanted to sidestep for a moment just to squeeze that in. But yeah, back to the real issue. But first off, how we got there, we were talking about whether or not Congress can actually pass a law against speaking on these issues. No, they can't. That's a First Amendment issue. I'm talking about the safety issue, and yes, that is within their rights to regulate. And I do agree that until people prove that some people are actually born in the wrong body and the surgery is actually necessary to fix a problem. At this point, I am no longer convinced that it's just a cosmetic issue. There are politics and a lot of just bad advertising going towards it. You're saying it's just cosmetic.
You don't believe in science? Is that what we're saying here?
You don't either. No, no, you don't believe in the science. I said either that was the wrong thing to do. No, absolutely. And I have always supported science, but the science you think you're supporting isn't that scientific.
Oh, I think you're trolling.
No, I am 100% serious. Yes, there are medical. Hold on, let me say something.
Out against real, fascism with acidity and
that is not fascism. No, medical safety is not fascism.
Oh my God, you're calling it a scam.
I said there are too many scams at play. Well, exactly. Let me say it now. Too many scams at play. I don't know that the whole thing is a scam. And also, we don't know that this is solving a problem. We talked about this when Hunter Avalon was here. There was real research showing a few brain differences in a handful of people, right? And then first off, that research got shut down because some people sued.
One research got shut down. What about all the rest of them?
I don't know about the rest of them. But here's also what I'm saying. There has never been, this is what I'm talking about. Who said they're not humans?
You're taking away their human right to have a decision.
I did not say anything like that.
You said they should not be able to transition.
No, I said we don't know. I said we do not know for a fact this is actually proving a problem. We do not know for a fact this is actually solving a problem. And at this point, definitely outlawed for minors. And as far as if they were to outlaw it for adults, I honestly wouldn't be against it at this point because scams are a real thing. Personally, I would rather see ahead.
Is high blood pressure a scam? Diabetes?
No, it's proven.
Right. Just like
right. So I'm still right.
No,
the whole issue about transitioning to actually solve a problem. I know I'm not convinced that has actually proven to solve a problem.
Oh my God! Please. Oh my God. They are adults, Joseph.
I understand. Ultimately, they're adults.
We're talking about adults here.
But then we can go to the libertarian route. They say the same things about fentanyl. They say the same things about meth. They say the same things about lots of things that have serious.
Those are hurting them.
Well, you don't think castration, just because you don't feel the pain of a castration doesn't mean harm was not done to you.
How many happy trans people do you have to talk to before you'll realize that it's not all a scam? How many times do you have to look up? Like, okay, Val keeps mentioning PubMed, right? Great research. There's also this meme video, and I wish I could find it, that has all of the research detailed with hundreds of different outlets that have done research into this. You're talking about taking away somebody's right to have a decision with their doctor.
Why are you calling it a right? First off, I was always talking about
right. Because it is their right, just like it's your right to get your nose changed if you want to.
My nose changed. Like I said, I'm talking about something that is apparently cosmetic. And if you were asking me if cosmetic had to be outlawed, if it were actually outlawed for safety reasons, personally, I would say so be it. I really don't find it important. It's nothing I'm ever going to get. It's not like I'm missing out on anything.
Right, you're not, because you're privileged to not have that in your life, but somebody is.
Well, hold on. If you're saying it's cosmetic, it's not like I said.
I'm not saying it's all cosmetic. Surgery. That was you.
No, but what I said, I'm not convinced the evidence shows that the surgeries are solving a problem. That's what I'm saying. That's my statement, not the rest. Not the rest. The rest was you, not me. The rest was me responding to you, but that's my statement.
Oh, Joseph.
The world is not actually ending. just breathe.
No, but that is wild to me.
Grab your cat and give him a hug.
Come here, you little freaking butthead.
Don't hug him too hard.
That is crazy to me, though. It is. It's like saying people in Hollywood, they can't go get their lips injected.
I don't know why you're equating the two.
Because
that's not even remotely close. I'm talking about men who...
What about somebody that needs... Okay, finish your sentence before I freak out.
Let's say, like, when we spoke to Abel, remember, he never got castrated because he sensed something was wrong. And he said he's lucky he didn't, even though to this day, and he was open about this, his nuts are ruined. His genitals are ruined. He can't have kids. He times all his meals so he goes to the bathroom once, maybe twice a day. And he has to sit down. I don't know how many people like that it takes before you say something might be wrong. I think that's more serious than you think.
I'm not saying it's not a serious thing. I'm saying it's not for you to decide. Right? He made that decision. Bad decision, good decision. He made it as an adult.
Yes, he did. But you also remember the state of mind he was in. He was a broken man when he went into that medical office. And all they did was tell him walk a straight line. And they said, I can tell by the way you walk, you were supposed to be a woman. And he bought into it. That was a broken man going into a surgery. a life-changing surgery that actually ruined his life and his health. Yes, I do think that's something worth considering. I'm not. Also, remember, guys, I'm not. It's not like I said I'm the one writing the law.
Thank fucking
Keep
God.
that in mind. It's don't worry, they'll live.
So
People
you're not
continue to
okay
live
with what about the people that start the process and have improved mental health? What about the people that
that
have
needs to be reversed. Well, wait. You said
what?
improved health? Hold on.
Improved mental health, improved
Oh, okay.
symptoms
No,
on their depression. What
no, hold
about
on.
the
That part
people?
cut out. Hold on. That part cut out. You scrambled for a second. So you said improved health, right?
Right. What about those
Okay.
people? Do they not matter to you?
I think they definitely do matter. If something is actually improving, meaningfully improving something, yes. But I'm not convinced that these surgeries are actually doing that. Because a lot of people are just doing it for cosmetic reasons anyway, and that's getting treated like a. I don't even know
We're
how to
not
put that
talking
into words.
about, and I know there is the social contagion issue, the transgender issue. We're talking about people that actually need this medical intervention as
And
adults.
that's what I'm saying. I'm not convinced the evidence really shows a need for it because there's so much that has been cosmetic. I am questioning what is actually being shown. So that's how I got to this position. You asked how I got to this position. That's it. That's the whole answer. I don't have anything else to add.
So is it just puberty blockers that you're against? Is it like
No,
just the whole
first off,
everything?
puberty blockers do have a legitimate role because let's say kids are producing hormones out of control. That has severe health issues too that are proven. Okay. Guys who like this happens with guys who take synthetic drugs. If they take synthetic testosterone, they do that for a long period of time, especially when they get to their 50s, they start having heart attacks because the heart muscle is too thick. It's working too hard, even though these would otherwise be healthy guys. That's why a lot of pro wrestlers, you notice even if you don't follow pro wrestling, you might notice a lot of these guys drop off around age 50. That's not really the kind of age people should be dropping off from heart attacks. But it's because of the drugs they use. And you can get other for youth. So we go back to youth. You can develop other issues. Other hormones going out of balance, bottom line, is a problem. So at that age, puberty blockers done the right way, yes, do mitigate that problem. And that is proven. But I'm not talking puberty blockers. I was talking about the surgeries for cutting parts open. Men getting castrated because they think they're supposed to be women. Yeah, I think that's a serious issue.
If that makes them happier.
Lots of things don't affect me. I'm not going to say other people shouldn't be safe.
Oh, I'm not saying they shouldn't be safe. I'm not saying they should go to the back alley and get it done. I'm saying if it is a decision they made with their doctor, how do I have a right to disagree with it?
You do have a right to disagree. It's called individual thought.
You know exactly what I mean, smartass.
No, you asked the question. All right. Then, well, anyway, I answered the question.
I need to ask your opinion on non-binary people at this point.
What about them? What about it?
Do you just think that that's not a thing?
I don't understand the question. Sorry, I don't understand the question.
Non-binary people.
Yeah, what's the question?
If you don't believe that transitioning should be a thing, what are your thoughts on people being non-binary?
Some people think they're reincarnated cows. I don't care.
Okay, Joseph.
What? What you ask? What people think of themselves a certain way? What about it? That's something I've always said here. I think this is one of the first conversations we ever had. I don't care how people view themselves. What are we missing? I don't understand.
Nothing. I'm honestly shocked. I am very much so of the belief of live and let live. People, if they want to, in a safe environment with their doctor, do their transitioning and it makes them a happier person, I am not going to fight that. Trans rights, like Val said, are human rights. We have the right to go to our doctor and have our medical intervention as needed. I had my appendix taken out. Okay. Right? Nobody fought me on that. That made me a happier person because I wasn't in pain.
How long ago was that?
I don't know, like 5 years ago.
You're alive.
It's longer. There
alive and
longer than that, but
safe.
still. But that is just.
You think you're drawing too much together in a nebulous way. We're talking about one that is admittedly cosmetic and one
No.
that is admittedly
No, it's
necessary
not
to
just
reduce pain and
cosmetic. It's
suffering.
mental too. It is not
Okay?
just cosmetic. If you are happier and not going through this depression and anguish, it's not just cosmetic, Joseph.
And that's like I said, I'm not buying that because a lot of people are doing it for
And I'm
apparently doing.
not
It's not
buying
like
that you're
it's not like they
calling it a
scam you,
scam.
but it's not like they do a full body scan first and then say you have that kind of brain development that indicates you are experiencing gender dysphoria for neurological reasons, and therefore the best thing. This is the best way to start the conversation around whether or not you should transition or maybe even just seek hormonal treatments to balance out what's going on. That's not what happens.
Okay.
That's something more complex. That's a much more important conversation. That's not what's going on. People are just showing up saying, "I'll do it," and the doc says, "Me too." No, to say that the safety concerns are void, that's what I'm not doing. That's ultimately
You're
what I'm
calling
saying.
it a scam, is what you're calling it multiple times.
I said the risk of the scam is too high.
I mean,
What?
if
What does
you're
that say?
talking about research,
My eyes are blurry. What does that say? Survey
multiple
over 90,000.
studies have found that transgender people are generally happier after transitioning and that gender affirming care can improve their lives. A survey of 90K trans people in the United States, 79% of respondents reporting they are a lot more satisfied with their lives after transitioning, and 15% were a little more satisfied. Like, this is just.
All right, then how about
You've
this?
been listening to Gothics way too much, right?
I have rarely been to her channel. Actually, the reason I stopped going to her channel for months is because all she did talk about was transitioning people. And she even asked me, I think she even asked me about it. And I said, yeah, that's all you were talking about for a while. I'm done with it. I'm in California. We don't even hear about this stuff on the streets. No one talks about this stuff unless they're talking about
Of
Facebook.
course not. But this was brought up because we were talking about 2025 and it being obscene.
Yeah, but no, they weren't calling the surgeries obscene. They were talking about the conversation alone.
Right. They don't want the surgeries just like you to be allowed.
They were we were talking about the conversation itself specifically, just the conversation. So in other words, this conversation we're having right now, you and I would both be felons under whatever law they intend to pass. They would just say we are commenting
so we'd
on.
Be like Donald Trump,
right? We'd be. I don't know if this whole conversation is one count or multiple. I don't know. It depends how the law is written. And that was the issue where I said that is absolutely insane. That was a conversation. That was just bringing it up in conversation. It goes against the First Amendment, an amendment they pretend to uphold, right? They say that all the time. It's always liberals going after the First Amendment, and then they do something like this. Because obscenity has always been used as an argument around First Amendment protections.
Right, and they also want to get rid of porn, which I think is crazy.
Right, and now there's another thing. It's not outside the realm of Congress to do. Porn isn't specifically a protection. The First Amendment means if we see something, we can't be punished. That was the issue that was brought up when Richard Nixon said stop the presses, because Washington Post got a hold of government documents, and they said for national security reasons, Washington Post has to stop the presses. Absolutely has to stop the presses, right? And the Supreme Court said that's not enough. These generalized security concerns, again, that's true. The Nixon administration never specified the national security concern in court. They never gave anything specific. And the court said that's not enough to stop the presses. But still, that's an example of how strong the First Amendment is. And yet people still look for ways around it. Obscenity is one of those old ways around it.
For sure.
Right? And same thing. And we talked about this when Sean Combs got arrested. Yeah, not the porn. Anyway, not the porno. No. We talked about this when Sean Combs got arrested. I brought this up briefly. The meaning of obscenity isn't very clear. It's a doctrine that apparently they can pick and choose from. So they can, it would seem based on the way the court interprets the Constitution, And especially because people meet it with so much sensitivity. Unfortunately, it seems like they're willing to give in some cases. And remember, we were talking about this because there was a guy that published a goddamn book about corrupt Catholic priests perving out on girls, asking them about the intimate details of their sins. So someone published a book about it, about corruption in the church, and the court agreed with the conviction,
Right.
saying
That
that
it was
intention.
obscene.
Well, it said that intention was irrelevant, that the nature of this conversation is fundamentally obscene,
Yep.
and the man was convicted. And
Okay,
that didn't
wait, I have
change
a
in the
question.
1970s.
I'm going to use a real life example that I know because he's talked about it publicly.
Hmm.
Matt Rife had an issue with his chest where he had these like not boils, but they were like massive mole type things all around his nipples, right? And they bothered him. And it bothered his self look, right? How he felt about himself. So he surgically got it taken care of. Should that be illegal?
Pain? No, that's a constant medical pain.
No, there was no pain. There was no pain involved.
Then what was he? Why'd he have it removed? Why'd he get the surgery? Excuse me.
To feel better about himself.
Feel better about
To
himself.
feel like a man. To feel like himself.
I don't know, because it's not like he got castrated at the same time, and that's really what I was talking about earlier.
Not
remember,
every.
that's the part you're not looking at.
That's
you're
not every transition story.
Right, but
either.
see how you don't seem to care about that part, and I don't understand why.
Why?
Possibly because you don't have these genitals. Maybe that's the issue. Because that it's not like he can just glue it back on when he just changed. If he wanted to change back,
so you're okay when it's for somebody else, but if a transgender person, what? Okay, I'm gonna use
those are not the same. Those are
Blair
really
White has a penis.
Yeah,
but she has tits. Are you okay with that?
That's
Val's absolutely right. It's not castration.
It's not like the poor guy lost his schlong, and that's the issue I'm talking about here. When it comes to these full body transitions, remember, men get a part of them cut off because that's actually multiple parts in one area. Okay,
but that's not that every trans person either. You're not looking.
I understand that. No, I understand. No, it's not that I'm not looking at the rest. It's that you're neglecting the part I'm talking about. You're shining away from that.
You're calling it castration.
That's what happens when you cut off a man's nuts and his wiener. That's called castration.
Okay, but for them, that's just living their true self.
Are you sure? Because that's.
Am I sure? I mean, I just showed you some proof of that.
Okay, now then so you're talking about surveys. Then let's go back to the surveys where people said gay marriage was a threat to society. Obviously, you don't agree with that. Nobody here agrees with that. I don't know, maybe a handful, but nobody here agrees with that. So just because it's on the survey, this is an old problem in psychological research. People put too much on surveys, way too much on surveys. I don't find surveys alone convincing, especially in this day and age on the internet. You already know you can go to certain areas of Twitter, certain chat rooms, you go to certain YouTube channels. Christ, you can go to certain areas of the internet to find the population that you need to make a point. That's an age-old problem when it comes to surveys. Okay? And see, that's another thing I honestly don't understand.
You know what? I want you to do some research because I think you are misinformed when it comes to a lot of the trans issue. And I don't want to be a platform that spreads that kind of shit either. I don't think I don't think that's. I mean, maybe I don't know you as well as I thought I did, but I just don't feel like you would want to dictate somebody's life to this degree.
To say that law should never be passed for legitimate safety concerns.
That's not what you're saying.
That is my argument. That's what I was saying. That
but you're saying it's a scam.
I said there are too many scams. And I did say I'm not convinced it's solving a problem, but I also said there are too many scams going on. I did not call the treatment as a whole a scam. I never said that one strong statement. That I never said once. That's what you were hearing. But But like I said, I think that's a political response. I don't think you're actually listening to what I'm trying to say.
I
And it seemed like
understand
you were
you're worried
glossing over
about.
Abel's.
No, I'm
It's,
not glossing over Abel. I had him on here and had a conversation with you guys, and it was a really good conversation. I know the
and I'm
issues
sorry
with
I
it,
fell
but I
asleep
also
during that
know the
conversation.
positives of it. And you're glossing over the positives of it.
No, I'm saying I'm not convinced what people are calling a positive, what you're calling positive. In other words, proof that a problem is solved. That's what I'm saying. I have not found. You can't really safely say that.
I
And
just
admits
showed you people saying it helped
you
their
show me
life.
surveys. Like I said, we can go back to days where
Right.
people thought certain
Those
people
are
use
people that
surveys.
have transitioned, that have. What is the difference between Abel saying it hurt my life and those people saying it helped my life? Why do you accept one and not the other?
Well, Abel's story highlighted a very serious problem. The idea that
Sure. And
a
those
broken
people,
man, the broken man can walk in honestly seeking help, and someone can say with just a few words convince him to spend thousands of dollars on these surgeries.
you're talking about one circumstance, not
right?
transitioning as a whole.
Okay, but the one guy dies from fentanyl. Doesn't that raise a question? How dangerous is this?
Yeah, and then
Whether
research is done, just like what I fucking showed you. What has been done?
what
I
don't understand.
think you've done your research.
I don't understand this reaction. I don't know what you think I said. I don't think I said most of what you think I said. Buddy, all I said is there is a risk. There is a risk of the scam. I think is considerable. And all I said is if Congress were to outlaw, I wouldn't be upset. But if there is sincere proof, like a sincere way to diagnose these people and prove that this surgery is where is it? Then where's how come Abel didn't get diagnosed like that? He did go to a doctor.
He made his decision as an adult. I feel bad for him, yes. And he went through some terrible shit. But that is one person compared to hundreds of thousands that have done and been happier in their lives.
I think one truthful story can
and
highlight
those people
a problem.
Aren't as truthful. Yeah, I can highlight a problem. There should be some direction taken at that doctor, not every doctor that helps people.
Well, yeah, dude, you can give people some kind of treatment. They're going to feel. This is another problem with ADHD diagnoses. People, and especially this happens during what was college. What's that term? Finals. Suddenly, doctors get flooded with students that said they've had ADHD problems. The truth is, they just want the drugs so they can focus in studies. They can cram. You probably heard that one multiple times. But for other people, this is a problem. And doctors will tell you, just because you feel better doesn't mean you found the solution. That does not mean you found the solution. And I know you know that as a nurse, that just because people feel better with a treatment, that does not mean they found the solution. There's no way in hell you spent thousands of dollars and you're still in debt today and you didn't learn that. I know for a fact that is something you learned.
Oh my God.
What? Yeah, happiness. I know you can. You can find people who are happy with lots of things, just like antidepressants. You can find lots of people that are okay.
From PubMed.
Yeah, I know who they are.
This isn't some fuck off organization.
Yeah, I know what PubMed is. I haven't been there in years, but they actually are amazingly convenient. Yeah. But you have to remember, they're not the published. They're not the writers. They're not the authors. They just publish this stuff.
Oh, okay.
Remember?
We're gonna wrap up for today, guys. I'm still in shock. So I get everybody have a wonderful election post insanity, whatever you guys can muster up here. We will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Joseph. Bye, guys.
See you next time.